So here's the veteran random Lair Maarselok, and we're testing our 1-bar heavy attack warding build, which is modeled almost a carbon copy of the god of the heavy attack 1-bar builds, which is the Sark. So we're going to test this out and give a POV of it. So for the spells, starting from left to right, beginning on the left, we have the Cliff Racer, which is a spam build that we'll use in between heavy attacks when we can, when appropriate. Next, we take the Stamina Morph of Scorch, which is Sabbatarian Assault, which is our triangle. We're going to use that. And for our ultimate, of course, we have our bear. That's a given. It is PvE, and we are a Warden, so of course we use the bear. For O, L1, and R1, we have survivability skills, which beginning on O, we're going to use one of the morphs out of the skill line of light armor. So you do have to have 5 pieces of light armor on, which we do, to use this. And it's going to be the morph from Annulment, and it's called Deppen Magic. Sorry if I'm pronouncing any of these names wrong. Then for L1, we have one of my favorites, which is the Lotus Flower. I think that's the name of it. And that's a warding spell in which whenever I complete a light attack or a heavy attack, I will heal myself and heal the rest of my team who's nearby. I don't really use it to heal my teammates. I mostly use it for me, but that's an added benefit of it. Lastly, we have our Arctic Blast, which is our burst heal, and it's also going to do a tick, which can apply the chill status effect on enemies. And of course we have our bear, like I mentioned. So that's the skill setup, and then I'm not going to go too much into the gears because it's literally a carbon copy of the Sork build, so you can watch other videos on the Sork, and you don't have to use the particular gears I'm using, but I'm using for the body pieces I have on Noble Duelist, and then the other 5-piece set I'm using is of course the Sargents mail and the Oakensould ring. I'm not going to discuss those again, like I said, just because you can find many videos on those particular gears, and there's a lot of versatility in how you can change it up. But usually you're always going to have the Sargent mail on. Interrupt this. This video is not meant to be a mechanic video on how to complete the Lair of Maarselok. However, if you watch me do it and you like something you see and then you take that from it, then that's great. Here we're completing the first boss, and also this is actually my first time doing this dungeon on veteran, so I actually don't know the mechanics. This dungeon does drop some pretty good gear, especially if you're a DK. Then you probably already know this dungeon because one of the most popular sets for DKs is the Zens, and this is where Zens does drop. I was kind of impressed with the AoE damage on this build. I didn't know if the AoE was going to be good or not, but it's definitely sufficient. I really like when the Sabbatarian Assault goes off while the heavy attack finishes. It's pretty impressive, the damage there. And again, like I mentioned, this is my first time doing it. I am with veterans. I do not know. I am with randoms. I do not actually know the mechanics, but we're just going to go through it anyways. So we actually had to leave the dungeon and come back in because when we was doing this boss here, he like bugged, in which during the fight he is going to freeze, and then when he freezes we kill the ads, and then he unfreezes and you kill him again. But there was a bug in which he just got frozen and he just didn't unfreeze. So I told the team that I was going to not main DPS the boss, and I'll let the other DPS do that so that we can lower our DPS, because maybe too much high damage was causing that bug to happen. So that's why if you notice I'm focused on ads and I'm not really damaging the boss to prevent that bug from occurring again. But every now and then I will hit the boss just to speed it up just a bit. I think in a parse this build is coming in at about 80 or low 80k. You can definitely tweak some spells to your favor if you want to increase your damage. I don't really recommend it, but you can do it if you want. You could definitely add the barb traps on here. That'll increase your damage significantly. I think a better approach would be to maybe add flies. I think that's more practical. The flies do less damage than the trap. However, it's just very practical and easy to use. If you look at me when I'm playing, I'm not really close to the enemies too much. And when I am, I go close to them and I leave. So I wouldn't really think traps is ideal in this particular setting, but maybe in like a lot of trials where you're stationary, it's really ideal. And also you can swap out the Nobel Duelist gear set for the same reasons you might not want to use the traps. And there's a lot of great other options that I'm not going to get into because there's plenty of videos on it. But also, I think maybe if you add the traps, you'd probably go up to like 90k. But I think 80k is sufficient enough. And the problem you run into when you increase your damage is that you have diminishing results in actual real content. So the dummy parse isn't necessarily always reflective of what you're doing inside of real content. So that's why in dummy parse you want to have an ideal of something practical that you would actually use and maybe avoid something cheesy. I'm not saying traps are cheesy. They're not cheesy. I main a warding with 2 bars and I use traps. Just on the 1 bar, it takes up too much space for my 5 options of spells I can choose from. So I chose survivability over more damage. And this build is not a replacement for a Sork, and it's not to say that this is better than the Sork. I think the Sork is the god of the heavy attack 1 bar builds. It's just maybe something that someone who plays Warden would like to use or try out just for fun. I'm mainly doing it for fun. That's about it. So you see right there, the boss went frozen, would kill the ads right here. After the ads are done, the boss is supposed to unfreeze. However, sometimes the boss gets stuck there. As you can see, he just unfroze, which is great. That means that we can that means that he's not going to get bugged and we can actually complete this dungeon this time around. For the most part, this fight is very straightforward, and again, this video is not a mechanic video on how to complete this dungeon, so I'm actually going fast forward. I'm just showing 2 things, the build and also a POV of me just completing a random dungeon for the night. Yeah, this is a pretty easy boss to kill, I guess. So we'll finish this. The other 2 sets that drop in this, besides Zen's, they're actually pretty good sets, but they're not like meta, and most people don't really run them. I know one's called Azureblight, like Reaper, I believe, and I forget the name of the other one. So I'm gonna stay fast forwarding through all these mobs. Probably don't want to see me kill mobs, but I will show some clips of me killing some mobs. Maybe after the next boss, just so that you do get some POV of this build killing some mobs. Okay, so now we're on boss number 3. If I remember again, keep in mind I don't know the mechanics because this is my first time doing a veteran. Maybe even my first time attempting it as well. But from normal, I remember when this Lurcher dies, he drops a synergy, you pick it up and you bring it to the tree. So he dies, got a synergy. Oh, I'm super slow. Sorry, I'm a roll there. Yep. And then I'm pretty sure I just attack. Yep. Okay, so this is very similar to normal. Oh shoot, my tank died and my DPS died. Where are they? Okay, I'll res them. I wasn't able to res them. Actually, this huge Lurcher is trying to beat me up, so I'm actually going to run away. That'd be good because I could test the survivability of this build. So that's good. Actually, yeah, I just cheese him. I don't even test the survivability. I don't bother. I just run away and kite him. Kind of cheesy. Dodge the heavy attack or run away from it. The healer did get the tank or the DPS or both, but the healer died, so I guess the healer will get rezzed by the tank or something. Yeah, the survivability is pretty good on this build. I mean, even for the Sork, the survivability is really good, so this isn't like a warding thing. It's just the 1 bar in general has good survivability. Everyone's up, so I'm just going to focus on the boss. Shield is up. Let's get the new synergy. Let's kill this guy. I love that my bear can like stand in AoE and everything and not die. That's so good. Okay, get the synergy. Roll over because I'm too slow to run over. Yep. Attack the tree again. I think we'll kill it, yep. Because I'm not looking for gear, I just loot and I just keep moving. I'm not really looking for gear. I'm just doing this simply to complete a POV. Oh, you know what? I should slow down so that we can see some ads. Okay, let's slow down. I was going to choose the crushing shock from the destruction skill line as a substitute for the cliff racer, because what it'd do is it would add the ability to interrupt from far, which is nice. But I stuck with the cliff racer just because for the self heals or survivability. Again, when a warding has a passive that when an animal ends, it will heal me. So every time I use the spammable the cliff racer, I actually get healed a little bit on top of the lotus flower. So that's really great. But depending on the content you're doing, it might be ideal to use crushing shock instead of maybe this subterranean. There's a lot of spells that you can replace. A lot of people have different preferences for what they like on their bar when they're doing the OneBar builds. Obviously, I like some more survivability, but some people they like full DPS. Some people don't even believe that you need self heals. I don't recommend that though. I think you should definitely have some type of self heals. But I guess it might be oriented on what type of teams you run with. As you can see here in a lot of videos that I made, I usually play with random, so a lot of times I do have to self-heal myself. This team is pretty good. I don't really have to self-heal myself. These guys are good, whoever they are. Block that. This mechanic where the guy here has the shield and you can't kill him, it's so annoying. There's so many things in this dungeon that just is time consuming for no reason. These will probably be the last ads I show. I think maybe we'll just fast forward so we can kill this boss, the 4th one I think we are on now. And then after that, there'll be another set of mobs, and I'll probably just fast forward all of that, and then we can get right to the last boss and finish this video. Because I do think that this, especially this boss right here, this boss is not hard. It won't kill nobody, it won't wipe nobody, but it's just an annoying fight, especially because we didn't know the mechanics. I googled it later on, and there's spriggans that come up and they attack these beetles that climb the wall. And when I was doing this at the time, I knew that as well, and I was kind of killing them, but I wasn't super aggressive. That should have been, so it kind of prolonged the fight, I believe. But anyways, the mechanics here would be that you have Selene in the middle. You have to protect her so that she can spawn these insects that climb the wall, and you have these spriggans trying to attack the insects that's climbing the wall, and then so you have to kill those. Eventually the dragon's gonna come down, and then you could just attack the dragon. I think you do it like 3 times, and then the fight's over. The dragon will take off, and then you're gonna fight him again as the last boss. But I'm gonna fast forward because I didn't really like this fight, honestly. And again, this video is not about mechanics of how to do this dungeon. Well, actually, you know what? I'll show one mechanic on this that is worth showing. So there's the spriggans right there. The dragon will do a shout, and you'll see notification on the screen. And then that means you gotta block. See it right there? He's preparing an unrelenting force, and he will do a shout. You have to block it, or he's gonna throw you in the air. And you'll also see an animation around your character. Again, I'll show it again before I fast forward this. So if you look at the character, you'll see the animation. Right there, you see it, the animation, block that, and then you don't get shouted, or you don't get pushed into the air. So make sure you block that right there. If you get hit with it, you won't die, but it's more of an annoying nuance thing rather than something else. Okay, so I skipped so that we can get right to the end of that boss. He drops a chest, and open up the chest, take the gear you want. And then maybe I'll show another set of mobs, and then I'll just skip to the last boss. So overall, I do think that this build is pretty good. I do like it. I'd like the 2-bar better, but I think that this is really great. Okay, let's cleanse this right here. Here's a useful trick. With the heavy attack, you can start a heavy attack, look the other way, and drop your subterranean assault in a different direction if you want to. It's pretty useful. Sometimes you might want to target somebody, but you think your heavy attack alone will kill them, so you want your subterranean assault to hit somebody else. If you do like a OneBar warding build in Maelstrom Arena or Vatistrain Hollows, then that tip is really useful. And you can use these classes in those solo dungeons as well, or solo arenas. Okay, I think I'm going to skip these ads and just jump right to the last boss. Well, actually, you know what? Let's do this. I did actually die, so I'll show the video up until the point where I die, and then that's when I'll just skip to the end. I think after this set of mobs is when I die. The Azureblight is coming. Okay. Okay, that does no damage. I forget what happens. I forget why I died, but I know I died over here. Ooh. Oh my god. Yeah, that was definitely RIP. Okay, now we'll skip to the last boss. I probably had the blight and I probably didn't cleanse, and that might have been what caused us to die. Well, anyways, here's the last boss, and again, I don't know mechanics, but I do remember from normal that he does like a charge and it hits really hard, so don't get hit by the charge. And then he's kind of set up as the dragons in Sunspire, so I'm going to imagine that you can't stand on his side. I'm just taking a guess at it. So don't stand too close to his side, and then be careful for his charge. That's the things I do remember from normal mode. But yeah, I do like the build. I think the build's good. I think people can play it. If you're familiar with the Sork, you can easily transfer into using this right here. Again, it's not better than the Sork, but it is a nice build and it's fun to play. You can, I think my 2-bar build does like 102k or something like that. You can argue that this build being even significantly lower, like 80, 90k, is better because of this. The simplicity of it. It's easy to use, its survivability is really high, so despite its lower DPS numbers, I still think that people can make an argument that it's a better build, it's more efficient. But a lot of these things are depending on what type of teams do you run. Do you have a lot of heals with you? Do you not? Does your team usually struggle? Do you play with high damage players usually? All those things will determine what skills and sets and gears are going to be better for you. Oh, the tank died here. Oh, that's a no-no. Oh, looks like someone's resin him. He's charging. What did I do? Why am I there? Oh, slick. That was a close one. Even though I'm making this recording after the game, it's always really interesting to watch what I did and how I reacted to some things. It almost feels like I'm living it. Like I'm live, but this is not live. So sometimes when the dragon's doing a charge, I think, oh no, what am I going to do? Even though I know that I wrote or something out of it. What should I do here? That's interesting. I have no idea what that is. The tank keeps dying, but honestly, I think this tank did a really great job. I think that this is a tough dungeon for a tank. I think. I'm just taking a guess at it. But I know a lot of those Lurchers and stuff, they hit really hard. It seems I'm kind of slacking. I haven't put my Lotus Flower on. I'm not even using enough Lotus Flower, which means that I could have just put flies on and did more damage. But I play with a lot of randoms, so I can't predict these things. The healer's just doing a good job. Ooh, a wing slap. Wow. Okay, so my intuition was correct. He will wing slap you if you're standing on the side of him. These breaths do a bit of damage, but I started putting the shield on, so actually it wasn't really hitting me much. Yeah, he's pretty much dead, and that's that. Honestly, this dungeon was easier than expected. We could have probably did hard mode with the randoms. And even in the moment, I wanted to ask them, but I was like, you never know how things might go. So I didn't bother.